right, so today we're going to be talking about percent of change, okay? So what that is, that describes the change over time by either an increase or a decrease, okay? So make sure you write that down. So it describes the change, it's a key word right there, change over time by either an increase, okay? So we can go up, or a decrease. So we can decrease our amount. It's going to say it goes down by a certain percent or it goes up by a certain percent. Okay, it's going to say both ways. So we're going to be able to find that percent using both increase and decrease, and we're going to have to do that using this thing called the percent proportion. Okay, so we're going to talk about that here in just a sec. All right, so percent proportion. Percent proportion is how we find the change happen. So how we find that 25% increase or 30% decrease. All right, so mark up, mark down, anything like that, but it's not always going to say mark up, mark down. It could just say increase or decrease by this certain percent. So we have this formula that you're always going to use, okay? So it's going to be percent over 100 equals the amount of change. So we're going to have to subtract two numbers. Okay, so I'm going to add that to your notes right here. So we're going to have to find this. We have to subtract two numbers, okay? So they're going to give you two numbers. They're going to give you an original and a new amount. You're going to have to subtract those. We don't want this to be negative. This always needs to be positive. So I would suggest always putting the bigger number first and then subtracting away the smaller number. Okay, so that change is always going to be positive, and then the bottom number is always going to be your original. Okay, you're going to have to figure out what the original is. Usually they're going to say something to something. So that first something is going to be the original amount. But you're going to have to figure that out in these problems. You're going to have to use your ELA skills and dive into the word problems and figure out what is the original amount. But then the change is pretty easy. You just subtract two numbers, okay? So they're not going to give you either the percent, they're not going to give you the change, or they're not going to give you the original. One of these is going to be your x, or your variable. So you're going to have to cross it up, all right? Cross them up, put them a little move on them, cross multiply, and try to solve this, okay? So we're going to look at some examples of how to use this. So let's look at this example right here. A gallon of milk cost $2.79 in 2000. In 2015, it went up to $3.98. Okay, so this is really truthful actually, because a gallon of milk did used to cost this much back when I was 9 years old, and then in 2015, it went up to $3.98. So we're going to figure out how much change happened. What was the percent of change? But first thing we have to do is we have to find the original amount, the OG. All right, so the original amount would be $2.79. Okay, because that's where it started. So the original amount is $2.79. Okay, so that's your original amount. But then what was the new amount? Well, in 2015, it was $3.98. So the new amount for this problem will be $3.98. All right, so we need to figure out the change. Remember, I told you to find the change, you have to subtract two things. We're going to subtract these two numbers. All right, so put the first one, or the largest first, so $3.98 minus $2.79. And so you're going to get $1 or 1.19 or $1.19. Can't write. So $1.19 is the change. Okay, so it went from $2.79 to $3.98. It went up $1.19. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. Jumping ahead a little bit. Let's set up our proportion. Okay, so remember it's the percent. Well, we don't know the percent, so that's our x over 100 equals the amount of change, so $1.19 over the original amount. This is where it gets a little tricky. The original amount is this one. Remember, we already said that. Okay, so it's $2.79 is the original amount. All right, so there's your proportion set up. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. First thing, let's decide, is this an increase or a decrease? Well, we went from $2.79 to $3.98. So we increased the price. So this would be an increase. So we went up. Okay. But now let's find that percent of change. So let's solve this. Okay. So let's rewrite the proportion. X over 100 equals $1.19 over, so the amount of change over the original amount, or $2.79. Okay, so let's cross it up, put a move on them. Okay, so we're going to have 279x equals 100 times 119. So we're going to solve this. So we multiply those two. This would be 119. Bring down the 279x. Sorry, you can't see the problem. Bring down the 279x, and then we're going to divide by the original amount, or 279. So 119 divided by 279. This was a 42.65% change. Okay, so a 42.65% change. So that gallon of milk went up 42.65%. That's a large increase for a gallon of milk. All right, so let's look at another example. This one's going to be a little bit different than the one we just did, but it's going to be okay. So the 7th grade class experienced a 15% decrease in enrollment. Right there, you see right off the bat, you're like, whoa, Mr. Tedder, what is going on? They gave me the answer already. Well, yeah, they kind of gave you the percent of change already, but we're going to have to find something else. Let's keep diving into this. Last year, the 7th grade class had 280 students. How many students are enrolled in the 7th grade class this year? So instead of finding the percent of change, we're going to have to use the percent of change to find out the new number, okay? So they gave me the original amount right there, 280 students. So my original amount is 280. The 7th grade had 280. We don't know the new amount. So when we don't know something, we put an X on it, okay? So remember that. Your X isn't always going to be the percent. Sometimes it's going to be other things. So this time it's the new. Okay, so they told us the percent, or we got to find the change. Well, we don't know the change amount. Okay, so when we don't know something, once again, we got to put an X on it. I'm going to talk about what this is here in a minute. Okay, so the X is going to be change. I'm going to change this X now to a question mark. Okay, so yeah, we don't know it. But guess what? We're going to have to use this X to find this new. So let's just put a big, huge question mark there. Yes, I know you just put an X and you're going to complain, but it's okay. I promise. Percent of change. They did tell us the percent of change up here. They said 15% decrease right there. So our percent of change is going to be 15%. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little arrow just to say it's decrease. So now we are going to set up the percent proportion. Okay, so remember, let's write out what it is. It is percent over 100 equals change over original. Okay, so they told me the percent. Do not put the percent sign on that. Come on, listen to me, please. Do not put that percent sign on there. You're just going to mess yourself up. You're going to get aggravated, and you're going to yell at me. You're going to yell at yourself. Save us all time and stress. Leave the percent sign off, okay? Because when you put it over 100, that is the percent sign, okay? This sign just means over 100. So when I put it over 100, if I put that percent sign there, it's like I'm saying, hey, you're over 100 over 100. You calling this thing old twice, okay? Don't do that, okay? Leave the percent sign off. Remember, we don't know the amount of change, so let's put an X there. The original amount is right there, 280. And so now it's just a matter of crossing them up, okay? Put a little move on them, and solve this problem. Let me move my camera a little bit so we get a better view of this. Cross them up, okay? Multiply. My paper's wanting to move on me, but multiply. So 100 times x, so 100x equals 15 times 280. You notice without a calculator? I'm going to cheat and use a calculator. 215 times 280 is 4,200. So 100x equals 4,200. And so, of course, we're going to divide by 100 and see that x is 42. Now, the original question said, how many students are enrolled in the 7th grade class this year? It's not 42. Remember, x represented our amount of change, okay? So x is our amount of change. That means there was a change of 42 students. Now, is this an increase? So are we going to add, or is it a decrease? What's a decrease? So we are going to get the answer. So to get new, remember that's our question mark up here was new. Okay? Well, we're going to have to take our original amount of 280 and subtract, because it's a decrease, 42 kids. So you're going to see that there's now only 238 students enrolled in the 7th grade class. So that will be the answer to this problem. 238 students.